What if the one thing standing between you and steadier mornings, calmer digestion, and fewer energy crashes after 60 isn't some expensive supplement or complicated routine, but a simple glass of slightly slimy green water you've probably ignored your entire life? I know how that sounds. A little ridiculous. Maybe even desperate. But stay with me, because what happened over the next 7 days surprised me in ways I didn't expect. And not in the loud, flashy, miracle way YouTube thumbnails scream about, but in the quiet, subtle, almost emotional way that sneaks up on you when you're not looking. I stood in my kitchen early Monday morning, sunlight barely peeking through the window, staring at a mason jar filled with water in sliced okra pods that had been soaking overnight. And I remember thinking, is this really what health trends have come to? The water had turned slightly cloudy, faintly green, with that unmistakable thick texture clinging to the sides of the glass. And I'll be honest, my first instinct was to dump it down the sink and make coffee instead, because coffee is familiar and safe and doesn't feel like a science experiment. But I had promised myself, and this channel, that I would test it honestly. After 60, we hear so many claims. This lowers blood sugar. That melts belly fat. Something else cleans your liver. It becomes exhausting. And somewhere between skepticism and hope, I decided I didn't want hype. I wanted truth. So I drank it. The texture hit first. Not terrible, just unexpected. Slightly thick, almost silky, but not in a good way. I braced myself for a strong vegetable taste, but it was mild, almost bland, which somehow made it stranger. Day 1 passed with absolutely no fireworks. No sudden burst of energy. No magical clarity. I checked in with my body every few hours, like I was waiting for a notification. Nothing. And that right there is important, because so many people over 60 give up on healthy habits within 48 hours if nothing dramatic happens. We've been trained to expect transformation, not gradual improvement. Day 2 felt the same. I woke up, drank it, made a face, laughed at myself a little, and went about my day. But something subtle started on day 3. My stomach felt calmer after breakfast. Usually, I experience a slight heaviness mid-morning. Not pain exactly, just a reminder that digestion isn't as effortless as it used to be. That morning, it felt smoother. Not gone, just easier. And I almost dismissed it as coincidence. But by day 4, I noticed my energy curve throughout the day was less dramatic. You know that sudden afternoon crash where your body practically demands a nap and your motivation evaporates? It didn't hit as hard. I still felt normal tiredness by evening, but that sharp dip softened. That's when I started reading more about soluble fiber and how it slows sugar absorption. And I realized the very texture I disliked. That slight thickness was likely the fiber forming its gel-like structure. The thing I almost rejected was the thing potentially helping. There's a metaphor in that somewhere. Aging works like that too. The parts we resist sometimes carry the wisdom we need. By day 5, digestion improved noticeably. I won't make it dramatic, but it was more regular, less bloating, less internal noise. And here's the part no one talks about. When your digestion feels better, your mood quietly lifts. It's subtle, but it's real. There's a lightness that spreads beyond the stomach. I found myself walking a little longer in the evening, choosing water over a second snack. Not because OKRA water forced me to, but because I felt aligned, like I had started something disciplined and didn't want to break the chain. That psychological shift was bigger than the physical one. We underestimate how powerful it feels to take control of something, especially after 60, when it can feel like control is slowly slipping in small ways. Knees ache more, sleep shifts, recovery takes longer. Doing this experiment reminded me that I'm still an active participant in my health story. But let me shock you for a moment. My joint stiffness did not magically disappear. My weight did not drop dramatically. My blood pressure did not suddenly transform into that of a 30-year-old. And I'm glad it didn't, because if it had, I wouldn't trust it. Real change at this age is steady, predictable, quiet, and that's what this felt like. Not a miracle, not a scam, just supportive. And that word matters. Supportive habits compound over time. They don't explode overnight. By day 6 and 7, the biggest difference I felt wasn't physical. It was awareness. I was paying attention to my body again. I was noticing patterns, hydration, sleep, appetite. I became more intentional overall. And maybe that's the secret nobody markets properly. Sometimes a simple ritual becomes a doorway to broader self-care. Now, let's be responsible for a moment. If you're managing blood sugar with medication, dietary changes like this can influence levels. It's essential to consult a healthcare professional before experimenting. We are wise, not reckless. After 60, bravery must walk hand in hand with caution. But here's my honest emotional truth. The biggest shift was empowerment. I didn't feel like I was chasing youth. I felt like I was maintaining strength. There's dignity in that. There's power in that. And standing in my kitchen on day 7, finishing that final glass, I realized something unexpected. It wasn't about okra at all. It was about discipline, about curiosity, about refusing to surrender to passive aging. And that realization stayed with me longer than any fiber benefit possibly could.